Oh, boy. This will be a fun one. These are a couple of albums I haven't listened to for a long time. That's not entirely true, actually. I listen to them on occasion.
Well, I still always listen.
Yeah.
There used to be a way to stick it to the man. It was called rock and roll. But guess what? Oh, no. The man ruined that, too, with a little thing called MTV.
Don't talk to me about rock and roll. I'm not there in the clubs and on the streets, and I'm living it. I am rock and roll.
Did I listen to pop music because I was miserable? Or was I miserable because I listened to pop music?
So we're bringing the verses back. And this one could be very difficult to decide a winner. We got Face to Face, the self-titled record from Face to Face, and it's going up against Millencolin's Pennybridge Pioneers. Yeah. So let's, I guess, start with Face to Face, because it's the older record, I believe.
Yeah, I didn't actually see what year it came out. I think the Millencolin one came out in 2000.
Yeah, it was right around there. It was either 99 or 2000, but right in that. I was in grade 10. Yeah. That's when it came out. And yeah, I'm pretty sure Face to Face self-titled came out a couple, 2 years maybe before that or so. I don't know.
Yeah.
I could have looked, but my phone is currently charging and I'm not looking it up. So, but anyways, let's start with Face to Face. This is Face to Face. First of all, is one of my favorite punk bands of all time.
Awesome.
So when growing up, when people would ask me oh, who do you listen to? There's basically 4 bands, I guess you could say, that were on regular rotation. That would be Face to Face, MXPX, Blink 182, and Good Riddance. Actually,
one of my favorites.
Yeah, we're the 4 that were kind of on regular rotation. The funny thing is I never owned this album.
Oh, funny.
So I had Big Choice. I had How to Ruin Everything.
Oh yeah.
And I had the live album. So I'm familiar. I was familiar before, streaming and looking up all this stuff. I was familiar with a good chunk of the songs off this record because they are on that live album,
right?
I believe.
Yeah.
Which I'm thinking that came out. I feel like that said it was 97. I don't know. So that feels
the self-title might
old.
be older than I think.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, but here's the funny thing: is I always also confuse the self-titled album for whatever reason with Ignorance is Bliss.
Oh, okay.
Because I always thought for the longest time that the cover art of self-titled was the cover art for Ignorance is Bliss. So I don't know why, but that was kind of my thing for the longest time. I would have been so surprised if I actually went and bought it and went, oh, this. Yeah. Where does it say Ignorance is Bliss on here? Yeah. Who came up with that title? But yeah. So anyway, this is a nice little throwback record. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, so with this one, I heard the live record before this one too. My brother had got it.
Right.
So I was familiar with some of the songs before I got this one. I actually found this one at a pawn shop in Dauphin, Manitoba, where I lived. Yeah. And it was one of those bands where I would see other bands wearing their shirts. And,
sure, yeah.
And so I kind of finally got into it, and it definitely leans more to the rock side, punk rock, versus it's definitely not super poppy. Yeah. Well, it is, but not in a pop punk sense.
Yeah. Punk rock is weird in that way because I think a lot of the bands that we kind of, at least growing up, would have considered these are legit punk rock bands. When you listen to them, I'm
it's definitely still
outside of the production, what's the difference? I remember, say, Bouncing Souls, for instance, being a pretty big band, and I'm they're pretty poppy. When you listen to them, right? Yeah. They've got hooks all over that record. But anyway, I would agree with you in saying it leans more towards the punk rock side than the pop punk side. But go on.
Yeah, this album is full of so many good songs.
Yeah.
As the last time I listened through it, again, I didn't want to skip any. There's lots of great choruses and really good writing. I love, I think Trevor's his name. Yeah, he's just such a good writer, and love his vocals. And it's a big step, similar to the Millencolin one. So the albums that were released, so Millencolin's before, I think it was called For Monkeys.
For Monkeys,
Big Choice was the one before self-titled.
Oh, for Face to Face?
For Face to Face?
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah, So I just this week when we listened to Big Choice, I was like, man, like this doesn't sound that great.
Oh, it doesn't sound great.
Like,
no.
so it was a huge jump, you know. So I don't know if that had to do with going to a major label. I think this one was released on A&M.
All right.
So just kind of that shift of kind of being a bit more in the mainstream. And, And
I mean, this record for sure. I mean, it has not only my favorite Face to Face song, and not only like my favorite punk rock songs, but like one of my favorite songs of all time. With Blind is on this record, and I mean, I think that song definitely took them to the next level. But I mean, there's so many good songs on that album, right? But I mean, that song, I feel like it showed up all over the place, and was probably I feel like it's safe to say it's probably their either most well known or best performing song sort of deal. But here's something a little interesting. So I saw them. They would have been touring for How to Ruin Everything when I saw them. And it was this weird combination of tours that actually came to Calgary at the time on the same night. So How to Ruin Everything was released on Vagrant Records. Yeah. And so at the time, Moneen also had just signed to Vagrant, or it was right before they signed. And I think this tour maybe is what landed them on Vagrant Records.
Okay.
But so they toured with Face to Face. Speaking of Moneen, here's a quick little shout out. So, Chris, the guitar player, also known as Hippie Chris, I believe, from Moneen, just released a new record with his current band C's on Friday as well.
Oh, cool!
It is so good. I was like very surprised by it. Anyway, so this tour, Face to Face and Moneen, and I forget who. There was one other band I think on that show. Can't remember who it was, but they came to Calgary the same night as this tour with like Guttermouth and Riddling Kids. And it was just like, it's just this weird combination. Well, I mean, like, they're all within the punk scene, so not that weird. But I just think of Guttermouth, and I'm not a big Guttermouth fan, really. And I'm like, eh. But so they all played on one bill instead, right? And so it was something like 6 bands that played. And I could just remember like kind of going in and out between because they sort of staggered them. Face to Face played last, but like I was there to see Moneen as well, and I mean they always put on a great show. And
I could never handle that band.
No, oh,
everybody and like like we were on tour.
Yeah,
like we played with them a few times, and I remember once specifically went and saw them at a festival.
Yeah,
and I just like hated them, and our bass player was so mad at me. Just thought I was a jerk for not liking
That's
them.
funny. Oh,
I was just too much into punk. I was like, I don't know what this is.
Yeah, I love them, especially their album. Are we really happy with who we are right now? Which is
aren't they doing a
really lengthy song title?
Yeah,
well, they have a couple. Like they're playing a couple dates. Yeah, but it's all in like either all at the same club in like Toronto or just within the GTA area. Yeah, I was like, oh man, that would be crazy. That'd be great if they just came and And then like 2 years ago, I think it was. They did this small tour with, you ever listen to Moving Mountains?
No.
So they're like I guess you could say like a post-rock, emo sort of thing. And their self-titled album is probably one of my favorite albums of all time. But they did a couple dates with Moneen, and they did like a split, and it was like, they did the split with, I think there was a split with Moneen as well. It was this weird like 3 bands that kind of like all intertwined together to do this stuff, and then did some shows. It's like, man, I would love if that show came out. It never did, of course. It was all like along sort of the eastern seaboard of the United States. I'm like, too bad. But we were talking about Face to Face. A little diversion there for Moneen and whatnot. But so like, that was the first time I saw them. And then the last time I've seen them, most recent time, it was funny because that time the venue was full, so it was like probably 1,500, 2,000 kids in this venue. This time when I saw them at a venue here that holds maybe 500 to 600 people, and there was maybe 150 to 200 people there.
Was that just on their newest album cycle, like in the last couple of years?
Yeah. Like this was just within the last 2 years, anyways, that they were that I saw them here. So I was, it's a little bit of a bummer in that sense, where you're like, oh man, like this is one of my favorite bands from being, from when I was in high school and whatever, and to also see them, I'm like I don't want to like pick on anyone, but Like Trevor Keith still dresses the exact same way he did. It's just so funny because now he's just like so much bigger.
Yeah.
I'm like,
oh, but I love that when I see old bands because that's like how I wanted to dress.
Yeah.
As a teenager, like that's like MXPX. You'd see pictures of them and it's like that's what I want to wear. And so it's cool now that they're not just wearing like sweatpants and a button-up shirt. Like
it'd be hilarious
like
if they came out like that.
Or whatever, So actually, that last time, I saw them on that same tour. And I don't even know if I've seen them before that, so that might have even been the first time that I saw them.
But
it was still so good.
It was a little funny because just a couple months before that, Millencolin came through.
I missed that.
And so that was my first time seeing Millencolin, and it was just and maybe I don't know if it's just like they never toured here as much because I don't ever remember hearing about them coming.
Neither.
Maybe like I'm sure if they were on like Warped Tour or something like that, But so they came, and it was at a different venue, but one roughly the same size, maybe a little bit bigger, but like packed.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
well,
so it was like this.
That they would have a bigger draw.
Yeah, it was this weird sort of thing where I was like, really, like, okay, like that's fine by me. Maybe I don't know if like I've sort of like I haven't really followed up with either band too much. I would say that I'm more familiar with, I guess, the later Millencolin than later Face to Face.
Okay.
Like Homebrew or whatever.
Yeah, such a good album.
Yeah, like I kind of actually listened to that. Or just True Brew.
Yeah.
Kind of actually listened to that and whatnot. Whereas like Face to Face, I don't know the newest album I've actually listened to. I bet it is because like that's what I was going to say about both bands. Really, is that they both write. I feel like consistently write good punk songs, right? Like, in some cases they write great punk songs, but at least like their stuff that's not as good as they're great is still good, right? Like they're solid, and that's the way that I feel like Face to Face always was. And Millencolin too. Millencolin, I feel like you talked about like the jump from Four Monkeys to Pennybridge Pioneers because it was Life on a Plate their first album. That's like where there's like the Dead Bird or whatever.
Ones,
yeah. But because they kind of dropped like the whole, especially on Four Monkeys, they had a whole ska thing going on.
Yeah.
No horns, right? Like, but just like the syncopated ska upstroke guitar sort of thing, and which kind of would get annoying after a little while. But whereas Pennybridge Pioneers was just like, okay, we're just a punk band now, and I mean they were definitely more crossing over into the pop punk with their sound. Even though we discussed like a lot of that stuff already was fairly poppy as it was, but yeah, so like Pennybridge Pioneers. Here's a little tidbit about Pennybridge Pioneers. It's the first ever CD I had burned.
Oh, nice.
And like so I can remember like going someone in my high school class being like, "Oh, I have a CD burner." And it was totally like this time where they would like charge people.
Yeah.
Like it's $5 for a CD or whatever, right? And then people get mixed CDs done all the time. And I was like, I just want Pennybridge Pioneers by Millencolin, please. And so he's like, I think I should be able to get it. And so downloaded it off Napster or whatever. And actually, no, it might have been like LimeWire or Kazaa or whatever was the first one kind of after Napster. And I was like, oh, burn CD, this is great. And I absolutely love this record. And the only downside of it, I suppose, is when comparing it to Face, is Trevor Keith from Face to Face is. I always liked his lyrics.
Yeah,
he always inspired me lyrically, right? Like he never did anything overly complicated. I just liked how he would approach lyrical content, and that his songs were always like serious, but not necessarily like too serious all the time. If that makes sense. Yeah. But like I just liked the way he, especially a kid being a kid in high school, I just liked the way he approached just basically like social life sort of deal. Right? I don't know how to word it, but whereas Millencolin a little more
on the kind of joke side
at times for sure, right? Like I think about the song Fox.
Yeah.
So like I mean you
song
wrote
about his Vespa.
Yeah, I was like you just wrote a song about a scooter, but you also like kind of lace it with innuendo that it's like about a girl sort of thing.
Yeah.
Is what I always found, anyways. But and then obviously like them being they're from Sweden, right?
Yeah.
Like the broken English sometimes comes through.
Yeah, which I didn't even pick up on that until a long time after I listened.
Yeah.
To them. I just wouldn't have thought about it that
Yeah,
time.
yeah. There's a specific line, and I can't remember what it is right now, where I'm like, but I think it's actually in Fox. He says, I got to lock her a tree.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, yeah, so to prevent something like a theft, I got to lock her a tree.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, I know what you're saying. You got to lock it to a tree,
Yeah.
but something is missing there. But,
Yeah.
And so I was thinking about this when listening to these two records. I'm like, I would love a band that was like Millencolin, musically, with Trevor Keith writing writing the lyrics, not even necessarily singing, because I wish I knew his name. I meant to write that down too. But the lead singer of Millencolin, I've always really liked his voice.
Yeah,
he's always had such a unique voice to me, and part of that is probably being from Sweden, sort of thing. You hear a bit of the accent coming through and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but yeah, his voice has been one that I've often like compared other bands to.
Yeah,
like, oh, this band, their voice kind of sounds like Millencolin. And that sort of thing. Actually, here's a fun fact, funny little thing. So you mentioned a little bit ago about being in a band on tour, and so that would be Means. And so, like Matt, I always, whenever he sang on Means records, his voice reminded me of Millencolin for some reason.
Just
I don't know,
like the rasp, like a little bit of rasp.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is.
Or,
yeah, so that it's kind of funny that this got brought up here, but. Yeah, so Pennybridge Pioneers, what's your kind of like experience history sort of with this album?
Yeah, so my buddy got this in high school, and I was still like mostly listening to like Christian punk.
Right.
And so he kind of, didn't listen to any of that, and so kind of through him is when I got into Blink and and so he got Millencolin. And like I was just so hungry for any kind of new music then. Like I didn't have a computer or downloading stuff, and so I thought it was amazing. Like just the videos they had for it, and it's a good mix of like pop punk songs, and then like so kind of half of that, and then the other half is like kind of a bit more like kind of serious, like more melancholy, Millencolin-y songs.
Yeah, there you go.
But like they just have different kind of chording and progressions, and
sure.
So as I was listening through it this week, I was kind of just thinking like, oh, like it's not like super consistent, but in a good way.
Yeah.
Like it kind of breaks it up. You have a song like Fox, and then the next one will be, a bit more serious, or just kind of a bit more serious vibe to it or whatever. And
well, I feel like the song, The Ballad, like the
last one.
Yeah. I feel like it was kind of like the like pinnacle of albums ending or featuring like an acoustic song.
Right.
It's I've always thought it was so good.
Yeah.
Like, and it tells such a great story, even when there is again some kind of like language barrier, broken English kind of going on in different parts. The story it tells, though, I still thought was very good. And I mean, it does get a little chilling at one point, considering like this would have all been released post like Columbine, right? Where it starts talking about like this kid like not going to the school dance. I'm safer at home with mom, and like these things that you just we were at a point in time, I think, where everything became hyper aware of this kind of stuff going on in schools, right? And unfortunately, it still goes on, and we still see it. It didn't really end up changing anything, except now we know it exists, right? Like, and so to like hear that in a song in such, I want to say, it's such a short time after, because I think Columbine happened in April of, was it 99?
Yeah, I'm terrible at remembering.
Yeah, somewhere around there. And so this record came out, there was, like we said, either 99 or 2000. I think it was 2000. But yeah, so for that song to be there, and I just think the way it ends the album, and I love too that it's not just like a simple acoustic song that's done. Like it comes full band later, right? And it like really like drives home this kind of point. And it's a really great song. But you're right, like they do they do talk about things like growing up and things like motorbikes and things like, but then also deal with, there's
social issue stuff.
Yeah, there's a song where he's singing to someone who's dealing with the loss of a loved one, right?
Yeah.
Like, and they do kind of get into, they dabble in a little bit of everything in life, right? Like, because life isn't all serious, it's also not all fun and games, right? It is a mix, and that's definitely appreciated too. But like I said, I would have loved to see like a collaboration of some sort, because musically I find Millencolin to be more interesting once they hit Pennybridge Pioneers, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. That was a huge shift.
It really was. Like, all of a sudden they're like, okay, no more of the plinky ska guitar.
Yeah. Just production wise, it's Brett Guritz, from Bad Religion that produced it.
So I'm assuming then that record's out on Epitaph.
Yeah. I don't know if he signed or what, but he's probably like, all right, guys, you need to kind of tighten things up. And so, I always like kind of seeing that transition. And it's happened with somebody. I was just talking about this last night, like with albums like Life in General, from MXPX, and like, Face to Face, Millencolin. There's just that really, like, it's really out there. It's like, oh man, like this is like so much better. Like, what happened in those 2 years?
Oh, you mean like overall, or the jump from one album to the next?
Well, just the jump in quality and like the quality of songs, and which I feel happened with a lot of kind of punk bands in this era.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, because like Enema of the State came out in '99 as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could make an argument that Dude Ranch wasn't as far back as say like Big Choice in production. But yeah, like the jump from even Dude Ranch to Enema of the State, you can definitely notice it. But yeah, I mean, I feel like we may live in a time now where that's less of a thing. Yeah. Because, like recording albums has become easier, right? And to get a good product. I mean, there is still something to be said to actually go to a producer and an engineer and whatever that really know what they're doing versus some guy toiling away in his bedroom.
Yeah.
But you can still get stuff that sounds great in your bedroom, right? Like versus before, it was like you pretty much had to go to a studio. And so when that budget all of a sudden was much higher, you're like, oh, this is what we can sound like. So, it's pretty great. But, okay, so seeing as this is a versus, now you got to pick a winner.
I was thinking about this, and it's hard to, like, if it was just that album versus, like, if it was just self-titled versus Pennybridge Pioneers.
Yeah.
But I was kind of trying to think, like, kind of even bigger, like, in discography. I think if it was just discography, I would choose Millencolin.
Oh, okay.
Like, everything from Pennybridge to current, I've loved.
Right.
Whereas Face to Face, I really got into self-titled. And then was Ignorance is Bliss the next one?
I believe, that was
I got that one, and then there was a few after that I just didn't interest me at all.
Yeah.
And then the newest one they came out with, I really enjoyed.
Nice.
I think I'm going to go
with... the new one, does it have the door on it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. No, I've listened
Protection,
to that. Yeah.
It's called?
Yeah, I did listen to it, now that I think about it.
So, I think I'm going to have to go with Millencolin.
All right.
Maybe just, especially, like, with Face to Face, there was kind of little parts of it that, like I said, my brother got the live album, and then I found it at a pawn shop, and so it wasn't as kind of crucial maybe to that point in my life. Whereas when my buddy got Millencolin, like we were skateboarding, we listened to it all the time.
Oh, yeah.
I kind of have more memories kind of with that album.
Sure, yeah.
So I think I'm going to have to go with Millencolin.
That's fair. I also had to put some serious thought into this because. I mean, for instance, like I mentioned, Blind being just one of my all-time favorite songs. That plays pretty heavy. And then, like, all the songs that I knew so well off of the live album.
Right.
Like, listening to studio versions again, being like, oh, yeah, like, this was, it was really, like, peak punk rock for me, like, when I was really getting into Face to Face and, like, Good Riddance and stuff. Like, again, bridging over more to the punk rock side versus the pop punk side. And then like Millencolin, like anytime I put that on, I'm more blown away when I put that album on than I am with Face to Face. And I think that's overall, like even the production between those two records, there's a step up to Millencolin. It sounds bigger, right? Like, but when I look at the libraries, I actually kind of lean the other way.
Oh, okay.
In that, I mean, this record's great. The live record I really loved. And I don't love a lot of live records, which I mentioned that on a couple episodes ago with Touche Amore. But I really liked that live record. And I was listening to that live record around the same time I was listening to At the Show by MXPX.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, live records at that very moment because there were two really good ones. But Big Choice I've always loved.
Oh, okay.
And then,
I didn't get into that one as much.
yeah, and then, I mean, I can understand from a production standpoint, it's definitely, it's a step back.
Yeah.
But the songs on that record are so good. There's also a Descendants cover on the
maybe
deluxe
we should go back and listen to
version,
more.
I think it is. Well, the same cover is on the live album where they play Bikeage. I think it's Bikeage they play. Yeah, it's either Bikeage or... Yeah, it's Bikeage. Sorry.
Yeah, I can't
Thinking
remember
out loud. I say that because he's wearing a Descendants t-shirt. And then... but then How to Ruin Everything I really loved as well. And then that's kind of where I fell off with them. Whereas with Millencolin, I was, I owned Four Monkeys, and I did really like it. And I'm sure I could still go back and listen, and there'd be some songs on there that are really good. Pennybridge Pioneers, fantastic. And then I kind of lost track of them, right?
Yeah.
So my experience with their library is much smaller. Although True Brew I did listen to heading into that Millencolin show. And I went, they're still going strong. It's clear. They're still writing good songs. So library-wise, I would actually stand by Face to Face, I think. But I am going to go with Pennybridge Pioneers.
Oh, nice.
Because out of the two albums, like I said, A, it sounds so much bigger.
Yeah.
And B, I find the flow, as far as from start to finish goes, I really like it.
Yeah.
Face to Face, Trevor Keith's voice can get a little grating to me at times, whereas I've always really liked the guy from Millencolin.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing against, like, Trevor Keith's got an iconic punk rock voice, but it's not very diverse.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're saying that if the guy from Millencolin is very diverse either. It's just less grating, I suppose, right? Like, he's less yelling and more singing. So, so I guess we're both going to pick Pennybridge Pioneers.
Yeah, like I would say that self-titled is probably a better album, like Face to Faces, like just kind of sonically throughout.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely basing this on what I listen to the most and kind of.
Yeah.
So I mean, better doesn't always win, right? Like sometimes it's just kind of the circumstances
and where it sits. Yeah, well, I mean, you mentioned like the skateboarding and like where it sits nostalgically for you, right? Like,
definitely.
And it shows a lot though, because I have albums that sit in a specific place in nostalgia for me. When I go back and listen to them, I'm like, they're not as good as I remember, right?
Yeah,
but like
with having the memory with it too, it kind of subsidizes the.
But
badness.
Millencolin, I feel like it stands up.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like even if I didn't have that nostalgic connection of, like I only skateboarded for about 2 weeks, and I was like, I'm too lazy for this. I'm going to play guitar, but it was definitely in the selection. And then just driving around with friends and whatever, right? Like it was a constant album, whereas Face to Face wasn't as constant with all my friends, right? So
it must have come out a bit later than Pennybridge Pioneers.
Face to Face? No, it came out earlier.
Earlier?
Self-titled? I'm pretty sure of it. Yeah, we're going to look this up when we're all done and be like, oh, one of us will be right. But anyways, that's going to do it for this episode. Again, if you want to find us, we are on the internet. That's where you can find us. Facebook.com/musictomypeers. You can hit me up on Instagram at DavidToMyPeers. You can also get on musicpeers.blogspot.com. It's kind of a hub for things. And hey, if you are listening to this somewhere, you should rate it, you should review it, all that kind of stuff. Help us spread the word. Even if you don't like us, help us not spread the word. Do your part. Anyways, that's going to do it. So bye.